Go ahead.
Hello everybody, and hello to all of you at home. So welcome to day one of the AdWar Life to Your Lifestyle in 21 days. So what we're doing here, folks, is we've scrapped the whole concept of resolutions. Because I know that you don't like resolutions, and I know that you guys don't like resolutions. I mean, who does? I mean, a Johns Hopkins study showed us that, over 90% of New Year's resolutions don't even make it to February, right? So what we're going to do, folks, is for the next 3 weeks, we're going to have a weekly workshop, and that weekly workshop is going to walk you through the lifestyle changes I want you to make every single day. So today, this week, is day 1 through 7. Every day I'll be coming to you via video, and I'll be giving you at home your daily workout, your daily homework. Alright, we're also raffling away a $300 gift certificate or Visa gift card for those of us that want to play, right? So in order to play you need a partner. In order to play you need a couple other things. We'll talk about that as we go. Alright, so why do we do this, guys? Big picture is this. A New England Journal of Medicine recently released this paper that said, hey, guess what? Given the childhood obesity problem that we're currently seeing, given the trends that we see in people's lifestyle, we figure that our children are actually going to be the first generation in history to die 5 years younger than their parents. Right? Come on in. So for the first time in history, folks, your kids are going to die at a younger age than us. I mean, parents, right? Do you get how big deal this is? And, I've recently become a parent in the past couple of years, and I figured out one thing, I think, and that's we're the leaders of our kids, right? We got to lead from the front. They're watching us, always watching us. They're figuring out what we're doing. In other words, we have to be one good. We make better lifestyle choices just for ourselves and for for the sake of our children's health too. So, who's excited? Right? We all excited? Yep. Come on. Yeah. Are you guys excited? So, day one, goal setting. All right? So, let's talk about goal setting. So, this is the time of the year that there's always some benefit to focusing on goal setting, right? So, for those of you that are playing in the contest, basically, what are the prerequisites? You got to have a partner, right? Because you need some level of accountability, don't you? Right? You need to pay $5 or $10, right? Why? Because, hey, you know what? We'd love to say that we move towards benefits and rewards, but don't we run away from consequences? Right? So for those of you that do your homework, you'll get your money back, and for those of you that don't do your homework, I'll take your money. All right? So here are 6 elements to proper goal setting 101. Alright? Now first and foremost, they need to be written down and reviewed like a working document. Alright, I know we live in the age of PDAs and iPods, but iPads, I really think there is some benefit to putting pen to paper and having that in a place where you can review it and look at it. Alright? You need your accountability, you need a partner. So that's why we've given you a partner, or we've asked you to get a partner, or if you haven't gotten a partner, we're going to give you one. Alright? And if you can't find a partner, people at home, if you need someone to be accountable, that's me. I'll see you soon. Alright? You need a plan. Alright? Not having a plan is a plan to fail. You should at least think of 3 things that you need to start doing, and 3 things that you need to stop doing. Alright? As we've talked, you need a reward, and you need some level of consequence. Alright? Consequences are a big one. Alright? Because in other words, most people are motivated more by saying, I'll take $10 away from you if you don't do this, versus, hey, if you do this, I'll give you $10. Right? And then lastly, you need a deadline. For the sake of health goals, folks, I request that you only look at this 6 weeks at a time. Right? And we'll get why do we want that in a few. Alright? Moving on. Hey, weight loss, right? We all want to lose weight, am I right? Especially this time of year, we want to lose weight, right? So when it comes to weight loss, I want you to think of that as a 3-legged stool, all right? Tracy, of the legs, dieting, lifting weights, or doing cardio, which one are you most comfortable with?
Probably resistance training, yeah.
Really?
Well,
Well, you've been in the office long enough, so all right, I'll take the credit for that one, right? But the majority of people that we ask are going to be way more comfortable with dieting or way more comfortable with cardio, right? But here's the thing. When we reduce our calories, folks, what we are doing is we're only giving the body X amount of energy to work with, all right? So if we are dieting and doing cardio, but not resistance training, we're telling the body that it doesn't need to maintain its muscle tissues. All right? Now the thing about muscle is it's your metabolic engines. What happens when you lose muscle tissue? What happens to your metabolism?
Slows down.
Slows down, right? So your muscles are the cogs that your metabolism turns on, right? And it would be horrible if you were to lose your muscle tissue, right? Well, anyone over the age of 35 is losing their muscle tissue. Muscle fibers come in 3 sizes: large, medium, and small. It's the large diameter muscle fibers that really fuel our metabolism. All right, we really start to lose those after the age of 30. By the time we're 80, we're going to have lost, well, close to half of our muscle mass. Now guess what? Age does not affect the ability of the muscle to adapt to exercise. In other words, someone that's 70 that's just starting exercise, they're going to make some benefits. Right? They will have benefits. So the important thing with resistance training is that you do it. All right? Now, I'm speaking to the choir because I got a really sharp group here. Trust me on that one. I have a sharp group behind you. All right? Best way of doing that is circuit training, okay? So, again, speaking to the choir, it's exercising strategically different muscle groups, all right, but in a short period of time. It's alternating different muscle groups, all right? It's going to give you a cardiovascular benefit. An example of a circuit would be, say, doing a push-up, and then going right over to, say, maybe a squat, and then maybe right over to, say, a row. In other words, what you're not doing is an exercise, taking a period of rest, and doing that same exercise again. Does everyone get that you're doing different muscles groups, different exercises to get to those different muscle groups, and you're going from one exercise to the next, to the next, to the next. All right? See how that's going to not only save time, but give you a cardiovascular benefit because you're moving, right? Now get this. It's going to increase your metabolism for 48 hours and also stimulate the production of growth hormone, which is anyone interested in anti-aging, fat burning, muscle development, right? Growth hormone, good stuff. How do you get it? Proper sleep habits and proper exercise habits. So that's how you circuit train, or that's how you resistance train in the real world. Everyday movement, folks. So, the key to lifelong health is more than just traditional gym exercises. The answer is to rediscover a lifestyle of constant, low-intensity movements. Hey, she only works for NASA's lifestyle division. This is the woman that's in charge of our astronauts when they go way north, right? We want to make sure that when our astronauts are in space that their health doesn't completely deteriorate. So what they found is movement is key to this. Remember when every 4 weeks or so I want to know how well your spine is healing and we plug you into the computer, right? That was developed by NASA. In other words, NASA really wants to know how does your body move through space, all right? So, things that you want to be doing is, hey, getting up from a sitting position every 10 to 15 minutes. Try to get a standing desk. Sitting on an unstable surface like a Dynadisc or a Basu ball is great. Your elevators, your stairs, right? One of the most common things with our healthiest patients is they park the farthest possible parking space away from the office. When we have a patient that enters the office, one of the things that we sometimes look for is where are they going to park? And if they park in the back, I know I have someone that's self-motivated and is really engaged in their health. All right? So everyday movement, not just movement in the gym. All right, insulin resistance and just insulin as a whole. If you were to learn about just one hormone in your body, I would hope and pray that it would be insulin. All right? So, what is insulin? What does it do? So, 2 examples here, folks. You have a good, healthy carbohydrate, right? a good healthy carbohydrate, you're going to eat the carbohydrate, the body is going to then digest that, and then it's released into blood sugar. In other words, the body's going to release the food as energy, right? So this line here, folks, shows that, hey, energy is available in my blood. My pancreas releases something called insulin, and then my blood sugar goes down because it's going to my working tissues. Does everyone get that? That's a good thing. Body got energy, it needed energy, and the body gave it to it. Then when we have an unhealthy carb, it's rapidly broken down. So the blood sugar spikes. So the pancreas, instead of releasing a controlled amount, freaks out. So that's why the blood sugar crashes. Now, why you need to know about insulin, especially this time of year, is when we have a lifestyle that is chronically resulting in chronically high blood sugar, is that bad? Yeah, because it results in chronically high insulin. Is that bad? Yeah. We've been told that multiple small meals are good, right? But what if they're all carbs and they're spiking our insulin high all day? Is that good? No. Right? So, what happens is when you have a carbohydrate that spikes your blood sugar and crashes it, that's your physiological dinner bell going off. Now beyond that, folks, when your insulin levels are high all the time because your blood sugar is high all the time, it's going to stimulate two hormones called leptin and ghrelin. It's going to make the hormone that tells your brain you're hungry to be, in other words, tells you you're more hungry. Tells the brain, the hormone that tells you you're full, it shuts that off. Right? So you get more of the you're hungry hormone and less of the you're full hormone. So whether or not you've eaten the appropriate amount of calories, what are you?
Hungry.
And what type of food does that to you?
Carbs.
You got it. Right? So, one of the tools that you can determine a good healthy carb versus an unhealthy carb is something called the glycemic index. Alright? Now, it's not a perfect tool, but it is a tool. So things that are high glycemic or medium glycemic, we want to avoid. Things that are low glycemic are the carbs that are relatively healthier from a blood sugar insulin perspective. Again, there are exceptions that we'll talk to you about, but this is a general good tool that you can use. What about wheat? All right? So I know this is a hot topic for most of us right now, but we have a workshop that we talk completely about grains. I want to talk to you specifically about one grain called wheat. All right? Now, hey, are we talking about wheat? You know, the whole base of the food pyramid, right? Right? You guys get how that, now, and do you guys have questions about what is a grain and parts of the grain and what's the bran, what's the germ and things of that nature? Do you guys have questions about that? Well, you will soon. All right, so take that concept, put it in your back pocket, we'll get back to it. All right? But basically what I want to talk to you about is that the wheat that you see on the grocery stores today is different than the wheat that we were brought up with. And basically in this slide talks about how basically there has been a process of almost not genetic engineering, but what we call hybridization that has changed the genetics of the wheat. So the wheat that we see today is genetically different. All right? And basically this book called Wheat Belly talks about how the whole wheat that we eat today has little in common with true natural grain. Decades of selective breeding and hybridization by the food industry to increase yield has created new proteins called gluten, all right? And that's different than the gluten that our body's used to dealing with, is the idea with this, all right? So, despite the dramatic changes in genetic makeup of wheat, really there's been no animal or human testing ever done on the new Frankenwheat. So if you want to hear more about this, read the book Wheat Belly or watch my video on my Vimeo link, then we will kill that in detail, all right? But there are 5 things that gluten or wheat will do to you. In other words, wheat brings up the topics of yeah, but. I got yeah, buts, all right? But yeah, but there are 5 things that wheat will do to you no matter what. All right, first and foremost, wheat will radically increase your blood sugar, okay, and that results in something called glycation. It will cause an inflammatory and an immune reaction in your gut. It will negatively impact the nervous system. It will cause massive insulin response and hormonal chaos, and wheat will poison you. Would you like some details on those from the faces, from the looks on the faces. All right, glycation is basically a protein and a sugar. All right, so basically what happens is it's an irreversible modification of the proteins in the blood and in your body tissues. It stiffens your cartilage and erodes joint surfaces. All right, and basically it produces these things called, not important what they're called, but basically they produce something called AGEs. All right, and what those things do is they eat brain synapses, skin arteries, even the small arteries in all males' favorite organ. All right, so it also gives you wrinkles. All right, so yeah. All right. Now, when wheat gets into the digestive system, it has something in it that basically stimulates your immune system, so that inflammation that results attacks the lining of the gut. All right, and that's how you develop a leaky gut, is because of that inflammation. Things get out into you that shouldn't necessarily be there and start immune system responses that shouldn't happen, and that links to many other autoimmune disorders as well. All right, your nerve system, so you eat wheat, all right, and in the mouth you have gluten. All right, when the gluten combines with pepsin and hydrochloric acid, it creates something called gluteomorphine, which is what's called an exorphin. All right, and that attaches to opiate receptors in the brain. So get this, when binge eaters are given opiate blocking drugs, they consume significantly less calories. Help me find that slide that disappeared. Anyways, yeah, slide that disappeared. All right. So, boom! Gina, you found it.
I'm
All right,
glad.
so when binge eaters get opiate blocking drugs, 30 to 40% less calories. Because we're all addicted to wheat. I'm not addicted to wheat. Yeah, you are. If you have opiate receptors in your brain, which you all do, it works this way. All right? So again, we talked about what is it going to do? It's going to spike your insulin level, right? When your insulin spikes, you guys remember something called cortisol? That's your stress hormone, right? When cortisol spikes, you get a chronic disease. Right? High insulin, high cortisol, high stress, lots of chronic disease. Not good. All right? Also, guess what? You know, when you eat too much, right, your body deposits it as fat, right? So get this. When you eat, when you have extremes in blood sugar and insulin levels, you develop visceral fat. All right? We're not talking about belly fat. We're talking about fat around your organs, and that produces all sorts of things like inflammatory cytokinins, macrophages, and all sorts of stuff that will kill you quickly. In addition, visceral fat produces estrogen. Wait a second. So now the fat molecule becomes an organ, an estrogen-producing organ. Now for those of you that are going through menopause, perimenopause, that's estrogen that the body's not used to counting for. So what that's going to do to your balance of male and female hormones? Out of whack. What's that going to do to your symptoms? Night sweats, things of that nature, yeah. So, technically grains are poisonous. All right, wheat has things called phthalates, which allows you basically make calcium, magnesium, zinc, and vitamin A, B12, C, and vitamin D harder to absorb. And lectins, they damage the lining of your GI tract. Both of those are higher concentrations in whole grain, which are good for you, right? Well, we'll explore that as we go. All right. 6, posture. Right? So, you know, posture affects and moderates all human functions, both consciously and unconsciously, from breathing to hormonal production to thinking. Right? So, I was talking to a patient today, and I said, hey, wouldn't it be a bummer if every day you had to wake up and go, beat, 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 beat? I mean, I'm getting sick of it already. And wouldn't it be a bummer if you every day had a consciously go, come on liver, come on liver, come on liver. In other words, do you all understand that everything that makes you healthy and keeps you alive, you never have to think about it. It's under the radar, right? And that's all because of a very important part of the brain called the cerebellum, right? It coordinates all the internal functions of your body, but guess what else it regulates? Your posture, right? So get this, when we talk about healthy posture, level shoulders from the front, level hips from the front, ear balanced over the shoulder. When we see good posture, we know that person's spine's in a nice, healthy alignment. When we see postural shifts, many times those are the first indicators of damage to the spine that's injuring the nerve system, that's preventing that person from working at its best. So we know that to live a strong, active, energetic life, few things matter more than good posture. And this study of over 1,300 subjects showed it. All right, and they followed these 1,300 subjects for over 7 years. And you all remember the dowager's hump, okay, the forward head posture. All right, long and short, the people that had this type of posture had 44% greater mortality rate. That's pretty significant. So the researchers go, what did they die of? 2.5 times more likely to die from a cardiovascular incident. Wait a second. Remember how, doesn't every part of my spine go to a specific organ? Wait, what controls my coronary arteries? What controls a large part of my cardiovascular system? Who has a guess? Bam, right there. That's control central. Right? So one of the first things we ever talk about when we look at x-ray, someone comes in with a low back, we're going to talk about their neck because that's the most important part of the spine, because this nerve down here has got to go through here first, right? So have some intention behind what your posture looks like on a given day. Right? It's something that we never ever think about. So here's my little guy. He's literally, you'll see a picture down the way here of him being checked. It was the first thing we did when we got out of the hospital. Right? My wife had a 42-hour unmedicated labor, right? And we left the hospital a day early, right? You know, most people want to stay there forever. We're like, get us out of here so we can go to the chiropractor. My son actually had a perfect cranium because we trusted the body and we allowed the body to go through the birth process. So, again, posture starts early. So, core training, right? We're going to talk about interval training. We've already talked about interval training. Our resistance training. We're going to talk about cardiovascular training. Core training is a big part of that, right? What do you do for your brain, folks, right? What type of exercises feed your brain, right? We talked about the part of the brain that controls posture, right? How do we get to that? And we get to that through core training. Get this, guys. So when I talk about core, you get we're not talking about the big muscles that we see on the beach. We're talking about the muscles that live layers and layers underneath. They support and protect your spine. They're also part of the abdominal wall, right? When we talk about your core muscles, we're talking about, yes, the muscles, but also the nerves that innervate those muscles, right? And if we could look at look at your spinal cord, about 50% of the nerves that are in the cross-section of the spinal cord are tied into the spinal joints or the core muscles. And that's what feeds your brain where you are in space. Pretty important part of the brain to keep healthy, right? Why? Because it controls your posture, but it also controls what? Everything. Every organ in your body. So, there is a dependence on sensory stimulation for normal brain function. What I want you to think of, the neurological stimulus that comes from movement of the spine. I want you to think of that as nutrition for the brain. What happens when you starve you? You don't work as well, right? So when you starve the brain of the nutrients that it needs, right, it goes into the stress response. And we're going to talk about the stress response one of these next coming weeks here. But basically your spine is your lifeline, but we all go through life. We have slips, we have falls, we have crashes. The spine, the muscles that protect our posture get deconditioned. And look at how we go through life then. You know, but we have the choice. Can we go through life heads up, or we can go through the life heads down? Getting adjusted, core training, lifestyle choices are all a huge part of that. So when we talk about core training, we want to do things that mimic real life. You know, functional exercises, what we call them. Things on a Bosu ball, a Dynadisc, a wobble board, unilateral exercises. I can do a bench press 2 ways, right? I can do it with dumbbells like this, right? Pushing both arms at the same time. But what if I do that one arm at a time? That way, and then that way, and then that way. One of the foundations of movement and of our neurology is when babies start to cross-crawl. So utilize those unilateral exercises whenever you have the opportunity. This is basically, there's a concept called neuroplasticity, and that is basically you can change your wiring based off of the exercises that you give them, or that you do. So a big part of why we give you exercises to support and protect your spine is we want your wiring to change from unhealthy spine to healthy spine. Does that make sense? So when you basically do core training, the body will make these neurological adaptations. Does that make sense? Is that a good thing? Yeah, you better believe it. Right? So again, the body is designed to be healthy. In other words, every single one of you already have everything in you that you need to get to your health goals, to make these lifestyle changes. All you got to do is just let rubber meet the road. But inside, you have everything that you already need. All right, guys. Get to work. So that's that. What do we have for time for that?